hello, Salam, Anwar.
أهلا.
Uh,
عليكم
uh,
السلام.
I'm I'm so happy to have you today. We was so awaiting for this. Elias introduced us virtually, and and I was so waiting for having that interview with you in Rajaj podcast, which is a podcast that I interview Moroccan entrepreneurs around the world. So I will let you introduce yourself first, and a funny way to do it, I will say how you will introduce yourself to a complete stranger in a party.
So I'm Anwar. I was born and raised in Holland, but both of my parents are from Morocco. So
Right.
a lot of people, when they see me, I don't look like a typical Moroccan, but I am 100% Moroccan in that sense. But I did grow up in a city in the Netherlands where there were no Moroccans. So, and as a result, I don't have as much of a strong Moroccan upbringing as many Moroccans do in the Netherlands. So
Right.
that's a bit in terms of the family. Both of my parents come from the northern part of Morocco. They've actually
Right. Reef.
shown, but not yeah, no, not the. So here's the weird thing. So they're both.
Uh,
They don't speak Amazigh. None of them. None of. So
okay.
neither my family from my mother's side or my father's side, but they are from the mountains, like literally from the Reef Mountains. They're both,
Right.
so it's still a mystery to be solved why that's the case. But I have my theories on that.
Okay.
And I learned later on that most Moroccans in the Netherlands, they speak Amazigh, they speak what's Rifia, and I don't,
Right.
and I never grew up with that. So that's a bit of my Moroccan and family background.
Okay. Okay. So raised and born in a small middle city in Netherlands.
The suburbs, a city called Purmerend, which is
Right.
it's only like a sort of 15 minutes bus ride from Amsterdam to Purmerend. So
Right.
anyone, and just to be blunt here, anyone who couldn't afford anymore to live in Amsterdam moved to Purmerend. So it's a
Right.
suburbs, very quiet town, and that's where I grew. Oh, not I was born there, and I also that's also the city where I grew up.
Okay. So what was your ambition and dreams, Anwar, as a kid or a teenager?
None, zero,
Yeah.
no ambitions,
Okay.
no. I had a very happy
Childhood.
upbringing. Yeah, childhood,
Right.
very telly to be like, because growing up in Purmerend, not it has its positive and negatives. So
Right.
the negative is nothing was going on and you were not inspired. The positive is you weren't exposed to any dangers or anything, and you could play everywhere safely, and as a
Right.
result you were bored out of your mind, like literally, like so bored. And I think this was interesting because growing up in a city like that means that when you're so bored, you start being curious about a lot of things.
Of course.
You start going to the library. You start making use of the time you have available, and unfortunately, the school where I was, and also the infrastructure that the Netherlands provides, that combination combined with the boredom allows you to really get inspired and educate yourself, and that happened slowly over time. It wasn't necessarily anyone specifically that it's not like, I mean, my parents were great. I mean, don't get me wrong, but it's not like my parents were making me aware of that. It
Right.
was more a natural thing that happened over time.
Okay, 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 okay. So actually, boredom. I don't know if you. I guess you have seen it or read it somewhere. That boredom, it's very healthy for uh for people's mind, because it allows you, as you say, to actually the mind and the brain works most when there is boredom. So
Yes.
he do more processing and more.
Well, I mean, the way how I would, retrospectively describe it,
Right.
it's when you are intrinsically motivated, it becomes sticky and way more effective. So
Mhm.
what I mean by that is, these cultures, right? I think in Morocco, this culture also exists when it comes to the education system. You have this competition, you have this pressure from
Right.
peers, your parents, and that can work. It can be quite effective, but it's not intrinsic motivation. It's all extrinsic. And
Mm-hmm.
when you're extrinsically motivated, it requires, it is very draining. And it doesn't stick that much. While when you're intrinsically motivated, you like it. You actually enjoy the process. You are really looking for it yourself. No one is pressuring me. No one is asking for it. And I wasn't even
Right.
aware of other educational cultures until later on, right? I mean,
Right.
the Dutch are very laid back. So there are almost no exams in primary school, almost no exams in high school, almost no homework during primary school. Like like this is insanity to many other cultures.
You feel lucky that you've been through this kind of education.
Yes, very lucky. Very the fact that I grew up in an environment where I was relatively free, like really let go, and I could do
Hmm.
whatever I want to do. I can play as much as I want. At the same time, having access to information. And at the time, I was, I mean, which also tells you my age. I'm 36 right now, and
Okay.
so if you do the calculation back, so I went to primary school just before the internet became really popular. So
Right.
so so really at the point where I started to mature intellectually.
Hmm.
I started to get access to the internet as well. So that was perfect timing as well. And
Okay.
I was really lucky. And also something to add to my background. My parents, they sent me to a religious primary school. So I went through
Okay.
here it comes, a strict Protestant school. So for eight
Okay.
years long, 8 years long. Now you have to imagine me being Moroccan, Muslim. I was forced to pray as a Protestant for eight
Oh
years
my god.
and read from the Bible every single morning. So yeah, I had this combination of freedom and discipline at the same time, and I think that was a very
Right.
unique thing to go through during my youth.
Yeah, that's very special. I've never heard someone like 8 years straight in a Protestant school coming from a Moroccan or Muslim background. That's
Yeah, and
something.
yes, and I think my
What
parents, they
was
had
their
that.
their what was their objective or their aim behind this, you think?
No, well, I mean, there was one practical or more principled reason. The more practical reason was that the school was just more nearby than the other school. The
Okay.
more, but what I like to believe, and I think that's also true, which is that they rather send me to a religious school than a completely secular school. So they rather so
Okay,
I
okay,
re-
okay.
they rather have me explore. And here's the interesting thing: I never had an issue of identity, so I was never confused or or the fact that they sent me to a Christian school never raised the question about religion. Weirdly enough.
Okay.
would it
Yeah,
not?
it's weird. It's weird.
Yeah, but and not only me, I know a number of other Moroccans and also my sisters. By going to the school, this strict practicing Protestant school, you have to imagine, I was literally forced to pray. I could not refuse. I was forced to pray along with them every morning,
Right.
and it was no issue, and it didn't cause any identity issue. In fact, it very much clarified to me like this is their way, and I have my own way. So, and
Right.
I'm
Right.
practicing their way. And in 8 years, I went along, and they were also very mindful. They would literally tell me, "You're Muslim, you're not Christian, but you're with us, so you need to follow our rules." So maybe, and maybe because of that approach, um, there was no identity issues. Like okay,
Right.
so we're on the same page. You allow me to attend your school, and that's fine.
Okay, 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 okay. And okay, that's very interesting, this part of life. I wouldn't expect that the discussion will go this in this direction. Okay, so now identity issues. What's your in during your teenager years, even maybe after finishing high school? Did you have a dream job or something that you think about, or nothing at all? I mean, like just going
No, no,
along
no. I
with the
just
way.
go with the flow. I mean, the story is gonna be boring in that sense. I never had any particular ambitious goals in life or anything like that. In fact, I didn't even ever imagine starting my own company. I was pretty simple. Like I just wanted to have good grades. Um, so nothing unusual, honestly. I
So when it
think what
happens, what was the trigger?
I think the trigger was only when I was the age of 25 when I got married, and
Okay.
my wife was gonna study in the U.S. So immediately after getting married, we both moved to the U.S. And then I got exposed to the U.S. culture, and that had a big impact on me because that opened up the possibilities of human motivation and human invention. Because I mean, in the U.S., and I happen to be in the U.S. right now as we're recording, that really opened up my eyes in terms of entrepreneurship and what's possible. I mean, at the time, I already had very good grades. I was doing a PhD, so I was ambitious already in the sense I want to become an academic researcher. But I think when I was 25, that changed quite a bit. It went from becoming wanting to become an academic researcher to wanting to have an impact.
Okay. What was your PhD about first?
My PhD didn't have a particular topic. I was doing my PhD at the Amsterdam Business School. I have a background in behavioral economics, background in game theory, marketing, and then
Right.
I said, I just want to do a PhD. I just want to do interesting research, and and I was fortunate enough to find a position at the Amsterdam Business School, and from there I started to dive into various different topics. So there's no particular topic. It's just that the
Right.
what 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 unifies my PhD thesis is if anyone is so bored out of their if we talk about boredom, if they're so bored they want to read my PhD thesis, they will find the unifying topic or the common denominator is that I'm very much interested in behavioral economics.
Okay. 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 So, you told me that you got exposed to entrepreneurship in the US, right? Through the experience of your wife while going studying there. What was um, what was the first impression you had, and what makes how it makes you feel as Anwar, and how you want to bring a new Anwar to the world?
So what I became very conscious of is that basically um, I became conscious that I was following a strict template. Like you go to school,
Right.
you're presented a number of career options, you pick one, and you do your best and all of that. You're not thinking out of the box.
Mm,
While
mm,
in the
mm.
US, you see it's very common to simply get out of the box. Like 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 some would even wonder, why should I go to school? Why don't I start my company right now? Like it's a common
Mm-hmm.
thing here. It's a common thing.
Right.
It's fair, and I think this is the one thing I noticed. And then so you have the out of the box thinking, right? So not following any
Mm-hmm.
templates. And the Dutch, by
Right.
the way, they like their templates. I can tell you for a fact.
Okay.
We even have this expression. Um, Please act normally, because by acting normally you're already weird enough. This is
Mm-hmm.
an
Mm-hmm.
actual Dutch expression. Please act normally.
Right.
By acting yourself, you're already weird enough. That's so that gives you an idea of how much normal they want you to be.
You
Now, and in the
right.
US,
Got
it's
it.
the opposite. It's the opposite. Like people go into extremes in lifestyles, in personalities, and but also in businesses and in pursuing their ambitions. And I think that opened up my mind. It's like now, okay, so when I got inspired by that, I was like, okay, imagine I can like have an idea about how the world could look like and then make it happen. Is there a path to it? And that's how it got me thinking.
Okay. And when was the first time you had the mindset? You feel it is here, it is set, because going from a PhD and going to a research and academic path, it's totally different from entrepreneurship path. There is nothing to do about.
It's completely different. So let me first emphasize one realization. So if anyone who's listening to this episode and they are
Right.
considering to do a PhD, let there be no illusions. If you're entering any academic field, doesn't matter which one, and you think you're gonna have an impact, you might want to think twice about that. Why? What I figured out, and anyone who enters the sciences will figure this one out. But fortunately, in my case, sooner. I mean, it was sooner than later. Is that academia is a reputation game. All you're doing in academia for at least the first 2 decades of your career is trying to convince other academic researchers that you're really smart. And
Right.
that's how
Exactly.
you progress in your career as an academic. So forget about having impact. Forget about your having your own theories. All you have to focus on is for you to be taken seriously, for you to progress in your career, and you can make a lot of money, by the way, in academia. That's also something I learned. I was surprised that a lot
Mhm.
of sometimes people tell you that in academia there's no money, but that's not true. If you know how to publish in top journals, you can get great paying jobs, but don't
Mm.
think you're gonna have any impact. What you're doing is you're convincing top researchers that you are a top researcher, and that's how you get the top positions. That's it. That's the game. That's the, if so and then once that became clear to me, I'm like, I'm probably very bad at this game. That's one. And number two, I even if I'm great at the game, is this really how I want to spend my life? No, that's not how I want to spend my life. And that's when I started thinking about, okay, are there any business problems out there that I can solve?
Right.
And I started to think from first principles, not having any corporate experience, not having any true corporate job. Although I mean, I've always worked as a kid. Like literally starting the age of 10, I was working, but always like these manual jobs, right?
Yes,
so
small
so so
student job.
exactly. I never did actual like office jobs or anything. I
Corporate
mean,
thing.
no, even my internship at university was pretty shitty. Sorry, I don't know whether I can use that word here, by the way. But
Yeah, you
it
can
was
use it. It's just like you're gonna offense your
okay, okay.
university.
No. I mean, my internship, I found it myself was at a startup. It completely failed, and I had no clue what I was doing. Apparently, the founders had no clue what they were doing. And I didn't learn that much while working prior to my PhD,
Right.
except for the work I did as a teacher at the university.
Okay. So you never been actually in the box, to be honest. Except,
No,
I mean,
no, no.
corporately speaking.
No, and I can already tell you, I wasn't able to start my company without my co-founders because I only I only actually started the business once I found co-founders who actually have that business knowledge, have that business experience, and were able to translate my academic ideas to real
Business.
applications for, yeah, for businesses. Yes, correct.
Okay. So what happens? You had a little bit an idea of what you want to do, and then you met your co-founder, or it happens almost at the same time? Because many entrepreneurs, they are, even myself, they are struggling. Like, should I find the co-founder first, then the idea, then come up with an idea, or should I have an idea, then find some co-founders that are going to build this together? What's your insight regarding this after having that experience after building a company today?
I think the order doesn't really matter. I think at the end of the day, what matters, are you able to solve anything? Like,
Okay.
and whether you start with the problem or whether you start with the team, I don't think it matters that much.
Okay.
What you do know is you need to have the right team and the right problem to solve, because only with those two you can have a business. Otherwise, it's impossible to have a business.
And to be on the
And
right time.
also in the right time.
With
But
market
it's
fit.
very but it's very easy to validate. Is it's get what I always give as an advice right now to any company I'm involved in or I advise is, when are you able to send that first invoice? What's the path to sending out that first invoice? It sounds weird, like very practical. Why are you so focused on an invoice? It's that invoice, the ability to send the invoice, that means you validated the number of steps to get all the way there. And
Right.
and I think you need to get it to that point very, very fast. Don't
Mm.
And I think any great business has been able to achieve that.
Okay. So tell me today, if you're gonna introduce Valence, how you gonna paraphrase the problem you're solving today? So it's gonna be an official introduction of what you're doing.
What I started with is the problem of understanding what people are gonna buy. How can I
Mm-hmm.
predict, for example, what you are gonna buy? Now I can approach it the following way, which is the standard way, which is I'm gonna do an interview. I'm gonna sit down together and ask a number of questions and ask, hey, Sarah, what are you planning to buy? I can
Right.
also do it in a bit more structured way through a survey, right? But that is basically the default approach. Now, here's the thing: based on that information, big companies make big decisions. But even small companies, they depend on that information to even predict whether they can survive as a business or not. Because
Right.
if I need to be able to know whether I have a product here that can actually sell or not. And it's all
Mm-hmm.
about,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not it's about really about the future, especially if the product doesn't exist yet, right? Like the product is just an idea.
Right.
Now, again, the traditional way is to simply listen what people claim. focus group,
Hmm.
survey. And what I introduced is, can we measure what people are willing to pay for in a predictive way, but also in a realistic way? And what Veilings does is that we're able to put you in a setting where you need to make, where you risk your own money to
Ah,
indicate to me whether you're gonna buy this or not.
right.
So this way, I would obtain information from you that's actually much more trustworthy than if I showed you a new idea. Now, if I showed you a new idea, right? I show, hey, Sarah, I have a new uh, mineral water brand. Would you would you buy this? Now you have nothing to lose by telling me very positively. Of course, I would buy it.
Yes,
Look at you. I
of course.
mean, such a nice product. Yes, of course I would buy it. Sign me up. But
Hmm.
in reality, you wouldn't if it is made available in the market, and that's a
In the
big
market.
problem.
Right, right, right.
And
Mm.
that's a big problem. So veiling solves that problem by make it realistic. So we see actually when we do our studies that most people indicate that they're not willing to pay anything for the product, and that's fine because now we can give decision makers a realistic view of actual demand of the product, and they can then make these important decisions on whether or not the product is going to become available.
So it's even now you talk about product, but it's for me it's much more relevant about ideas or innovation when we talk about new things that you have no idea how people will react to it, or especially disruptive ideas, how you can apply it to these kind of things.
Exactly. We don't know whether there's any demand and at what price you need to make it available. Who are these people who are actually interested in the product? There's so many unknowns. So the number one reason why businesses fail is no demand or too little demand because you have no idea
Right,
where to position it, to whom, and at what price. The number one reason why
hmm,
businesses fail. So and because we have no information on that, and the best entrepreneurs have like this intuitive understanding of the market. They would think. I mean, Steve Jobs is a great example of that. He says, you know what,
hmm,
the product is gonna look like this. We're gonna price it around this, and people are gonna buy it. So very few people have the type of intuition. Everyone else needs to do market research. And that's what we
right.
want to offer, where we completely try to de-risk the process of understanding demand.
Okay, great. I got much more clear idea now about what is Valence and how you went from 0 to 1. What was your idea to business think?
So in the beginning, I had no idea what I was doing. First of all, let me be very clear about that. All I had
That's a
was
good that's a good thing to introduce it so people like entrepreneurs at first you have no idea of what you're doing. So just
no idea. Like
people
it's very
like
normal.
comfortable.
Like you have the weirdest illusions, weirdest thoughts and assumptions about the world that turned out to be false, and that's perfectly fine as long as you don't make any fatal mistakes. That is my general advice. Just don't make any fatal mistakes. uh,
Of course.
and what I knew is we were able to provide value in terms of providing insight. I mean, at the time, I thought, of course, every company wants insights on demand. So naturally, this is going to become a huge success without putting too much effort into this. It turns out that's not how it works. When you sell something to another business, you can only
Right.
sell something easier. I wouldn't say easily, but easier if they have budget committed to it. And here's the ironic thing: a lot of companies we spoke to in the early days, they were smiling and they were positive about the idea, and it gave me the impression they're gonna buy something, become a customer, while they would never become one. And
Right.
and uh, and the reason being is that even though they see value in the story, they like the story. I learned the hard way that you can only do business, like serious business, if they have already budgets for it. If there are no budgets
Sure.
for it, then it's not gonna happen unless you can connect with the CEO or something more high level, and that's a whole different ball game. So, so these are the type of things we started to learn, and unfortunately, with my co-founders, they were able to really help me here.
They were
So
Dutch.
even they were Dutch. Yes, they were.
Okay.
Yes, yeah. But it didn't really matter that much.
No, no, but
One.
just like
Yeah,
to have an idea
yeah,
about
yeah,
how you met them, and I guess it
yeah,
makes it easier.
yeah. No, no, of course. So I mean, I went through a university with mostly people with a Dutch background, and
Right.
and then once and this is also how I met my co-founders. I started presenting the idea, and got the interest of a number of people, and then I decided to start the company. And
Mm-hmm.
but then you really need to narrow down what you're exactly proposing to whom, and it turns out that the market is much smaller than you might have anticipated. So no matter on what product or service you're planning to deliver, you initially think everyone could use this, right? And then like what's your total market? Everyone, you would think. But then
Mm.
you get confronted with reality, where it turns out actually very select few companies would actually buy this.
Right, right, right. And so it's kind of a niche market for you now.
Well, it turns out that very few companies buy market research. So only like really few market research companies. Sorry, very few companies actually buy market research. You. When you. I mean, for example, even companies with revenues in tens of millions of euros don't buy market research. They do not buy market research. They still depend on their
Just
gut.
launch products and
Yeah, just launch it and we'll see what happens. We cannot afford
see what
market
happens.
research. Yeah, yeah, it's
Okay.
like that. And once you get to companies with hundreds of millions and billions of revenues, that's when you start seeing them having dedicated teams, dedicated budgets, and those are the ones we can do business with easily. I mean, from time to time we help startups, by the way, and we're able to
Hmm.
do business with them, but then it needs to be super strategic, right? Like even the CEO gets involved in everything, and that's the great thing we do basically at Veilings, is that we provide the
Right.
insights on the big things, like is there actual demand for a particular product,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
that's the biggest question, by far.
Right. Okay, 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 okay. And okay, so my question is how you got um your I'm, what happens when you sign your first client's contract? What was it? What was about? Where? Matter of
um
sharing the experience.
Well, I mean, in the beginning, you're always scrambling. You're over promising to the client, and then you
Definitely.
do, yeah, and but you try everything in your in the best of your capacity to make
Capable
it
of doing,
possible.
right.
Yeah, yeah. I remember because I was responsible for the technical side of things at the start. Is that I would build features on the fly just to make that one next project happen. That was
Okay,
the mode.
okay.
That, that was the mode of working. Like I literally would write the code, get it to production, and would be live. Like the clients are asking for it, sure, let's make it happen. Whatever it takes to get to again. To send that first invoice, right? I mean, that is really
Huh,
what
huh.
you. And I think what we did well as a company is that from day one we knew how to generate revenue, and that's
Mhm.
also what I recommend. Any don't delay going through that whole process. And I think the fact that we were bootstrapped. I mean, later on we raised money from investors, but at the start we were bootstrapped. And in fact, at some
Right.
point we even gave up, our day jobs and everything, and that really puts the pressure on focus and getting to generating revenue. And I think that's a healthy approach to starting a new business.
Amazing. Uh, my next question will be another a little bit flipping to the other side of the discussion, as I told you. What was your relationship before Valence with Morocco, which is your original country? How you can describe it?
Well, you might be shocked with the answer. Practically no, none.
Nothing.
Nothing. In fact,
Even holidays.
no, I stopped going. Like
Okay.
like
Can you
as a kid.
tell us
So
like
so
in
okay. So to give you an idea, so as a kid, I grew up where I would go every year with my parents, spend 6 weeks in Morocco,
okay.
3 weeks
The
with my
classical
mom's
immigrant parents.
the standard thing, and I stopped doing that at the age of 15. I completely stopped doing that, and I had zero, zero. Yeah, I stopped traveling. So then,
Right.
that completely changed when I got married with someone from Morocco,
Okay.
and that's a whole different story on its own. But that got me connected with Morocco again, and I started going quite often, just for my wife. And then I also got in touch with the Moroccan ecosystem of startups, and they got me basically connected with the talent pool that's available in Morocco, and that opened up the doors. Like it really opened up my eyes because I had such a narrow experience,
Like first
narrow
time in
view.
the US?
Yes, yes, completely. Like you have to imagine, I mean, just to give you an idea to the audience here, is
Right.
I was going to Titwan, which is not the most, how would I say, technologically developed cities in Morocco.
Definitely.
Yeah, and then suddenly I got exposed to a scene of, very talented, and I think it was a very interesting timing as well, because high
When
speed.
was that?
So this is 2013, 2014.
Okay.
And I would say from 2013 to 2015, this is when I started getting reconnected with Morocco. And I think also the high speed internet become wildly available, and it's very reliable in
Mm,
Morocco. So it made something possible that very few people realized was possible, which is remote working. And I immediately recognized the opportunity and started. And here's the interesting thing: I don't speak Derija that much at the time at all, like none. Like for me, and I started only working with software engineers in Morocco. It had to be in English. So it worked out. I found great talent, great people. Some of them are still
how
employed.
how how it happens, because for me it's quite impossible. I was born and raised in Morocco, and I quit like 6 7 years ago. I'm in Paris right now working as a product owner with IT companies, and now imagining coming back to Morocco, for me it's almost impossible to, not impossible, but it's hard to do a decryptage of the system, of the ecosystem in Morocco, in terms of business, entrepreneurship, and in terms of administration and other stuff. How I find it hard to imagine that you just like put your your I don't know, your head in the in the plate, or your feet in the plate, if we can say.
Well, I was skeptical myself initially, just to be clear. But
Right.
what helped a lot, and I'm thankful to a number of people who proactively invited me to Morocco, and even sometimes accommodated, covered my expenses and everything, and they got me exposed to people, and then I was willing to try, to explore whether we can work together, and that to me opened up my eyes. What I did notice, however, it's not organized. So there's not like that I work with a company and that company has engineers employed or something like that. No, no, no. I talk to talented individuals personally, and that's how I got in touch with them. Initially, by meeting them in person, and then
Okay.
later on, I did even remotely. I started just going on LinkedIn and just finding even students, like literally
That
students.
rare talent
Yes,
that you're looking
yes,
for.
yeah. So I had a couple of things that I looked for, which already limited the list quite a bit. Language being the most important one, because for me, if you cannot communicate in English clearly, um, and when I say clearly, there should be zero misunderstandings when we talk to each other, because there are going to be
Definitely.
misunderstandings. Yeah, and there are already going to be misunderstandings because of other things, but it shouldn't be because of the language. And that turned out to be a great strategic move, because that made it possible that we have this base understanding within the company, and that opened up the door. So now we employ not only software engineers, analysts, and we even starting to add people to the business development team from Morocco, like the whole scale, like the whole spectrum.
Yeah, because actually, what Elias told me, you had only the back office at the time, so now you start having business development also. So you start
We have
bringing business
we
to
have
Morocco.
we have we have client facing team members based out of Morocco. Can you imagine? I mean, we serve like Fortune 500 companies, clients in the U.S. Like top executives to make the biggest strategic decisions ever, and we have our Moroccan team members being client facing to those conversations. Like they would actually give the recommendations to them, to these executives, to tell them, hey, based on the projects we've done, you need to do this with your company.
That's crazy. So you're bringing such a great opportunity to Moroccan youth that maybe has never quit Morocco, but still will work with the very edgy technology first, and top clients worldwide also.
Definitely, and I think this is what I find also sad to see very often, is that there's so much talent, but not exposed to the right challenge. And what I believe in, um, we need to expose talent to the right challenges, because it's the only way you can cultivate that. Now, what I saw a lot, which I find very sad, is that very talented individuals that would then go work for very traditional companies, that would get, and as a result, get indoctrinated, get into a template of very traditional, and it only takes a few years before
To
someone
get
that
COVID.
actually, yeah, you get corporate, and that's it, you're done. You're I mean, I met individuals that are not even 26 years old, 27 years old, and they're done. It's very hard to say, but like you got rusted, that's it.
Out of service.
That's it. Yeah,
That's
and
Allah.
yeah, I mean, it's very sad. It's very sad. I mean, the best team members I've been able to track were when they were at a young age. That's the
Mhm.
reality.
Yeah, it's very sad. I agree, and especially I am myself. I never had imagined that I will work in Morocco, especially the first years after graduating from an engineering school. And I was like, I will never work in Morocco. Otherwise, I will go in backward because as a young talent, you are always considered as like less useful, actually, to be honest.
Yeah, but this change.
Maybe the
This that.
opposite in Europe or in the US.
Yeah, but that's changing. That's changing very rapidly. I see now a lot of people based in Morocco getting incredible opportunities that are even incredible for European standards, and also this notion of you need to move to, I don't know where to get those,
Can you give
better
us an
opportunities.
example just to have an idea about what you're talking about? Maybe
So,
we
so,
people are not aware of what exists in today.
so let me give you one example that I can be public about because they're so insistent on being public about it. So there's this
Okay.
company called there's a company called Buffer. They're based out of Silicon Valley, but what you will notice is that this company is, by the way, that specializes in social media automation. Um, they have this one value called transparency. Like everything is transparent, including who is employed at the company and how much each make. And
Okay.
what you will notice, they have, I think he's part of the product team, a member based out of Morocco, a Moroccan,
Okay.
making $200,000 or something like that
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. In Morocco.
in
Okay.
Morocco.
Cool.
In Morocco. Now,
Okay.
this would have been unimaginable, unheard of many years ago, but now is getting more common. And this one is just, I just mentioned it because it's public information. Anyone can Google this. I can tell you, I know myself of way more cases that are completely private.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. So would you imagine living a better experience of exploring Morocco, which is your original country? You do it your own way. You have the right people maybe in front of you to introduce you to the right people that will introduce you to the right people. So it was maybe quite long sometimes and quite hectic. And you say you were skeptical at the beginning. How you think today we can make it maybe easier for other entrepreneurs to just like have a skin in the game?
Ah,
I will use your
I mean, it's gonna be very surprising, maybe. It's actually pretty
tell me what you
simple.
think.
It's very the recipe is simple and very powerful, but very few implemented, which is the following: position yourself for the market, and I mean, when I say market, the global market. So first of all, English. Secondly, know which technologies to focus on if you're an engineer. And if you're not an engineer, if you're a product manager or something else, know your field, what it takes to be top class. Know it. I mean, I always make the analogy. If you're gonna if you're a sporter, right? And let's say you do the 100 meter, the sprint on the 100 meter.
Hmm,
The first thing you do on day one is what's the world record? What's the world
of
record?
course.
Just be aware of that. But I can tell you, when I see most software engineers, when they present themselves on LinkedIn, Moroccan software engineers, it's like they have no clue. Like they have zero clue of what's considered top class. It's like they would mention weird things on their profile. Like if you just took a couple of minutes to understand what's considered top class in your own field, that is your own field, then it would already change a lot. So English, knowing in what field you are and what's considered top class, world class, and position yourself around that, and
Mm-hmm.
then of course also to reach that level, right? Like to actually practice and try and start small. You don't need to, you cannot immediately become, senior software engineer or anything like that. You might need to do a few small projects here and there, but knowing how to position yourself, I've seen it with my own eyes. I can,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm this happened to me. an
Right.
intern an intern in Morocco, coming from not a well connected family, nothing, but knowing, and this is she, by the way, knowing how to present herself in English, going from that background to work for one of the top Silicon Valley companies out there
Mm,
in
mm,
within two
mm.
years. Within 2 years, like from
Crazy.
graduation, yeah, within 2 years.
That's crazy.
And all she did is not besides being a great engineer, knowing how to position, knowing
Mm.
how to position.
I got you. I got you because that's a huge problem of all maybe young people that they don't have that image of the best of what they are doing or what they are trying to do. So you have nothing to go to move forward to or nothing to look forward to. So
Exactly, no reference.
no
Yes.
reference. Right. Right. And I will flip the question to the opposite side. How will Morocco or the Moroccan ecosystem will help you, Anwar, to do business in a better way or to settle your part of your business in a better way? How would you uh, make the experience you had already and you make it successful because of your work? How will we imagine it for other entrepreneurs to for other Anwar Haji to be able to settle in Morocco? What you think we can do today, or how the Moroccan ecosystem can evolve to help these kind of entrepreneurs and attract them back to the country?
I think we're already making. I mean, the interesting thing is, I think the country is already quite well developed. It's just a lot of people are not aware of that. So maybe we need to raise awareness about that. And
Mm-hmm.
also in terms of infrastructure, things are already quite stable. Now, there are some things where I have specific proposals on improving it, like financially
Give me
speaking.
two or three.
I mean, there are some capital restrictions, for example. So if you start a business right now in Morocco where you're actually generating money that needs to then go abroad, then there are restrictions on that. Quite a bit. It's not impossible, but there are quite big
Mm, mm,
restrictions on
mm,
that.
mm.
So that's really a limitation to a lot of entrepreneurs, by the way. Um, the second one
It's to
is
get the money out of Morocco, right?
yes, yes,
Like
yes,
in
correct.
and out easily.
Yes, which is
Okay.
which is not which is not a problem for us, because we invest. We have mostly for us it's mostly a cost center, which is fine.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Money
if you
coming
if,
in than
yeah,
out. More in than
exactly,
out. Yeah. Right.
exactly. And then there's another consideration is flexibility. You would be surprised how difficult it is to, for example, if you want to have a co-working space in any major city in Morocco, it's actually a proper one. It's pretty hard to find. It's pretty difficult to find one, and
Okay.
and I'm surprised by that because there's a lot of demand for it, and there are a lot of articles on it on different options. So these are the type of things that I think it can be done at a higher level, and then I think third is I mean that's the initial point I mentioned is just raising awareness. Like it would
Mhm.
already help a lot to raise awareness.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Okay. Some uncommon insights that you can share with us with this experience. in of veilings in Morocco? Something that shocked you or maybe cheered you up, whatever.
Um, it's Morocco is the big advantage, which should not be underestimated, and maybe it took me a bit too much time to realize this, is that it's a
Right.
great place also to organize team meetings. So for cost effectively. So you can I once flew in the whole company to Morocco. We put everyone in one villa and had a great time together. And was done at a fraction of a cost of organizing something similar in Europe. And I think that's the added benefit as well. You can so cost effectively organize these
Okay.
team events. And also, one thing you shouldn't necessarily strive for, because I know there is this culture traditionally of an office culture, right? Like you have in Rabat or Casablanca, you have an office, and that's where you want to have the people. But the
Right.
reality is that talent is quite scarce. It might be just distributed across the country, and you won't get them in a single office. So you should be really open to the idea of working remotely,
Mm.
and then from time to time get them all together. And I think that's the approach. But it also, yeah, I mean, that is my advice. Just the trade-off works, financially speaking, and also in terms of creating team spirit.
So the COVID accelerates a little bit this way
it
of
did,
doing things.
it did, but honestly, even before the whole pandemic, we were already in that mode. I think actually the pandemic made the things a bit more difficult because the restrictions in
Right.
Morocco were actually quite more strict than in Europe.
Than
But that
everywhere.
was yeah, but that was a temporary thing. Yeah.
Okay, 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 okay. So, what's your ambition today with Veilings and how you can imagine its development in Morocco and in the world?
I honestly believe that we can build a hub um, in Morocco and develop that, and expose people to world class problems, and have them develop their skills that way. And
Mm-hmm.
um, and I think the talent is there. We just need to get it more organized and structured. And I keep being in touch, and I still very much believe in the potential. So that is really something I would like to establish.
Okay, that's great. I think I had gone on all of my questions. And then I will have a final snack talk. It's like 4 or 5 questions just to make a little bit, I mean, to get to know you a little bit and make it a little bit lighter and fun for our episode. What will be the worst advice you had?
When it comes to Morocco, or
Whatever. No, it's like your
oh,
life
in
personal.
general, in general, the worst advice I had. Oh wow, I never got that question before. I had a lot of bad advice. I can tell you that. Um, I think the one I really consider bad advice is to not share any feedback, because of feelings.
Okay, got it.
And I mean, let me give you a bit of context. So I grew up in a culture where we're very direct, and almost rude in that sense, in giving, to share how I think about things. In
Hmm.
business, it's actually quite beneficial to be that, because you get things done very quickly. But um, sometimes you can be a bit too direct, too rude, and then people would feel offended, maybe, and then they would give you the
Right.
advice, please do not share that. And the bad advice I got once was just don't share it. But I don't believe in that. I think at the end you should always share it, but try to be more considerate of the receiver. That's it.
Exactly.
Yeah, but do
A
share.
nicer format.
Exactly, exactly. Know how to package it.
Exactly, the packaging. What's your worst enemy, Anwar? It can be a habit, it can be whatever.
Pro- Procrastination.
Okay. And what or who inspires you today?
What? uh, So many things.
Or someone or something?
Something, someone, something, someone. There's one economist. His name is Vernon Smith. Very few people know him. He won the Nobel Prize, but he basically showed by just being playful, just experiment, try out things, what is actually possible with different economic systems, and that is very inspirational because that means even the world of economics. So it's considered normal to experiment like in engineering, like to play with electronics and everything. But people
Hmm.
don't realize you can do the same thing with economic systems, with markets and all of that, and that is very inspirational.
Okay. I will share it with the I will share his name with the audience. And finally will be how you grow as a person and as an entrepreneur. What's your strategy? How you manage your growth, your own growth.
Start. My advice is start first with yourself. Put yourself first. And when I say yourself, I literally mean your physical self, like your body, your
Okay.
mind. I made a mistake in the beginning of just ignoring that and just trying to make it happen, right? Grinding it
Mm-hmm.
and biting through the pain. And that was the worst possible strategy. So I realized that's not sustainable. So what you should do is really always start with yourself, and if you don't feel that great, then take a pause, take a step back, um, because the number one thing I hear from other CEOs, and this is a fact. It's a really concern. The number
Mm.
one thing I hear from CEOs, they get tired at some point. And the reason why you get tired is because you're given challenge after challenge after challenge
Mm-hmm.
non-stop. In fact, it turns out you should accept as being CEO. That's what you do. You tackle those challenges. That's your job. Well, then then you need to be physically and mentally ready to take it on. So put yourself first so that you're able to continue tackling those challenges. And when you stop wanting to tackle those challenges, then you can take a step back as CEO if you want to. But otherwise, be very mindful. This is what you're supposed to be doing. Be in a state
Mm-hmm.
to.
And impact and follow up on impacting the world. Otherwise, you're gonna just shut down somewhere
Exactly,
without following up on
exactly,
your mission.
exactly.
A book or a podcast you want to share that you love or learn from, or
Oh, there's so many, but the one of the best books I can recommend on the topic is "The Hard Things About Hard Things" by Ben Horowitz.
the hard things about the hard things. Right. Okay.
There was the first book that basically said the reality of actual entrepreneurship, not the fairy tales.
Yeah, we need this because actually we had an idea of it's very sexy to be an entrepreneur, but the life is much harder.
Well, I would even say that that formulation is an understatement.
Anwar, thank you very much for your time. We had like 1 hour, 4 minute discussion, so
You're most
it's a
welcome.
little bit it's a little bit more than what I promised you, but I was really happy to have that discussion with you. Very insightful, and I really enjoyed it. I hope it's the same for you. I know you are in a coffee, just like passing by in New York or Manhattan or whatever. Thank you for taking that time. I really appreciate it.
Likewise, thank you so much for hosting.
Thank you very much Anouar.
نتمنى يكون هذا الكونتوني يعجبكم وتبارطاجيوه مع اي واحد اللي يقدر يستافد من هذه المواضيع ديال الانتربرونيا اللي كنبارطاجيو في عجاج بودكاست. غادي نتسنى الفيدباك ديالكم في لي كومونتير واي ملاحظات تقدر تعاوني باش نحسن من لا كاليتي ديال البودكاست. وفينالمون واخا هذا البودكاست كاين هذه 3 سنين القناه يلاه بدات، دونك نتمنى التشجيع ديالكم بالابونمون وبالبارطاج. نشوفكم في الحلقه الجايه.